Welcome back, perfect peeps, to perfect.dev. Today on the pod, we have Facundo Giuliani, and he promised me there's no relationship. So, Facundo
No
Giuliani
relationship.
from Storyblok.
Another Facundo. If you know, I don't know, a Facundo that is related to.
Wow, that's pretty good. So Facundo is a systems engineer from Buenos Aires, Argentina. He's a full stack developer, and he is the developer relations engineer at Storyblok and not Storybook. Like I messed up on my last Twitter post. My apologies. I honestly
no problem.
I think it auto corrected. I don't know. It's probably my fault still.
The names are very, very similar. I mean,
You
it's
got
not your fault.
one extra, like one different letter in there, so it's hard
Yeah.
to pronounce.
I'm like, oh man, it was such a good tweet right up until that moment.
No,
edit
but
button.
that was cool.
Where's the edit button, Twitter? Can we get an edit button, please?
Oh no, we're gonna get so many comments.
Will
Let's not
they
go
add
there.
it one day? I mean, will they add it?
No.
Probably not.
There's no plan, right?
There
there
like
were
a
a lot
Twitter
of
version
requests.
too that maybe they'll add something.
Yeah, or probably, I don't know, a Twitter Pro that you have to pay for a subscription and you can edit your tweets.
Oh,
they
I
do
did
have a
hear
pro
something
now. They
about
should
that.
add that
Yeah.
in.
Maybe they'll let them edit if you pay them.
That's right.
There you go.
Well, before I dive off subject completely into Twitterverse, Facundo, you want to kind of talk a little bit about how you got started in development?
Sure. Well, I live in Buenos Aires, Argentina. I'm from there. I mean, I've always lived in the same city. At high school, I started to study development. It was like an informatics oriented high school at that moment. Well, I had my previous. I took my previous steps with Visual Basic 6. I don't know if you know. Probably you know it.
I haven't written VB in many years, so I don't even claim to know it.
No, I ask because I don't know. Sometimes I talk about Visual Basic 6 or Visual Basic itself, and people like look at you like, what are you talking about? But I mean,
I've seen some mean macros written in it still. So
yeah, well, exactly. But well, I mean, those were my first steps with the programming, with development. When I finished the high school, I entered to the college, to the university. I studied systems engineer. In the meantime, I was working as a developer for different companies. My first job was related to Visual Basic 6. I mean, that was what I used, but I started to work with backend technologies, and I started to use .NET Framework and newer versions of the same platform. But I also work with other technologies, probably full stack, let's say. I mean, I work with front-end technologies, with back-end technologies, but I've always worked as a developer, or let's say development-oriented positions. And well, probably it was during the last 2 years or so, I started to get more engaged with the community, to talk with other people that were generating content and creating content and sharing that with the community, talking at events, virtual events or in person, and etc. And I started to feel like I wanted to do that. I wanted to share, I don't know, to learn something new and share that with other people, to work with projects or test projects or frameworks or tools and share that with other people, and etc. And I came up with this concept of development relations, or developer advocacy, developer developer experience, different names that depending on
many names these days.
Exactly, depending on the organization you took. I mean, we are talking, all the organizations are talking about the same, but probably giving the positions a different name.
Exactly.
But that was something new for me. I don't know, here in Argentina or probably in Latin America in general, it's not so common, all this area about development advocacy or development relations. And the people that I know that work in positions related to this area are working for companies from other countries. So, I mean, I didn't hear about that until a couple of years. And well, I started to talk to different developer relations engineers about what they do in the daily work, and what was that about, and etc. And I started to get interest
Yeah.
about this kind of task, this kind of positions. And I said, okay, let's jump and see. And well, an opportunity appeared. And now there is, like, since June 1st, I'm working at Storyblok as a developer relations engineer. So it's like 3 months, probably, almost. Yeah. And well, super exciting. I mean, a new experience, new task. I mean, very different to what I used to do in my daily work for the last almost 15 years. So a new experience.
Yeah.
Were
Can we
you
break? Sorry,
Sorry,
go
were
ahead.
you looking for a developer relations role in different areas of technology, or are you focused on CMSs in general?
I mean, I was interested in general in the development, in the developer relations position. The headless CMS is a concept or products that I used during the past months, because in this quest of knowing or learning new things, I
Mhm.
started to learn and to read about the concept of the Jamstack, new frameworks, new tools and technologies that are being used to create web applications. And I mean, between these tools, one of them are the headless CMSs.
Yeah.
And I mean, I knew Storyblok before joining the company. I used Storyblok before joining the company, and I've used other headless CMSs. And I mean, I knew the concept, I knew how to use it, probably, or how you could include a headless CMS to your projects. But my quest of looking for a developer relations position was not focused on a headless CMS. I mean, I
Sure.
started to see and to talk about to talk with organizations about that kind of work, let's
That's
say.
good too. I'm always curious because some people like use something beforehand and end up getting into a job because of the work that they did before. So I was just curious.
No, sure. In fact, the head of the area of developer relations in Storyblok, Samuel, I think that he started like that, like using so frequently the product that he ended up being the developer relations, the head of developer relations at the company.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm kind of curious. You said for a minute there, like it was a difference than your engineering job. Can you kind of explain for those like myself interested in being developer relations or developer advocates, what that looks like for day in day out?
Sure. Well, speaking about what I do, a developer relations engineer, let's say,
Yeah.
what I try to do is to create content or generate content that I can share with the community, focused on developers, to engage or to get benefits from the product that the company, in this case, creates or I don't know, offers, the services that the company offers. So, for instance, if you are working on projects or products, and you are evaluating, I don't know, options on how to manage the backend of your application, or different options of headless CMS, probably the idea is to offer the developers the various resources that they can use to learn how to get advantage of Storyblok features for their projects. I don't know, give talks at events, tutorials, articles, get feedback from the developers and from the users to communicate to the development team of the company to, I don't know, probably to improve something from the
Mhm.
product or an issue that is not working, and trying to to engage with the community, or the audience, let's say, which in this case
Sure.
are developers, and get the feedback from them to to feed the company, or what
Mhm.
could be the priorities to work, or what to fix, what could be improved from the service, and etc. and I think that's why it's called developer relations, right? Because you have to relate with developers and be in contact with them, and I don't know. It's something that I'm enjoying. I'm really enjoying.
Yeah.
But again,
So,
depending on the company or the organization, they name the positions in a different way, right?
yeah. So instead of like getting tickets and coding all day long and kind of maybe working in an agile practice, you're kind of working day in, day out, talking with users and kind of getting that feedback and then somewhat applying those features back to Storyblok in a way and doing lessons and all that fun stuff. Sounds awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No. I mean, I like it. Probably
Yeah.
not everyone likes it, but I enjoy doing this. It's a great experience, and I'm enjoying it. But yeah, I mean, for instance, the day after tomorrow, I will be talking at that event, React Finland, and well, again, presenting how you can get advantage of Storyblok to create your sites and etc. And after that, probably getting the feedback from the audience of the event and communicate that to the team. Yes, I mean, I've been a developer for 15 years probably, and it was like coding all day,
Yep.
which is fine. I mean, I enjoy doing that, and I really like it. But I wanted this change, and I'm like, I am coding, but not that much now. I'm probably
Yeah.
focusing on other tasks now.
Yeah, I feel like if you like talking with people and just kind of talking in general, like it's a natural fit, which I think you obviously show that you do. So it's fantastic. So
Sorry.
enough grilling you. This isn't an interview. I feel like it's coming across that way. So to dive a little bit into Storyblok, you kind of mentioned like headless CMS and that sort of thing. I'm gonna bring up, just for the people on the YouTube side or whatever you might be visually looking at this, Storyblok's main site, and we can chat about that a little more. So
Sure.
here is Storyblok. Do you want to just give the like a little bit of spiel on what Storyblok really is?
Yes. So Storyblok is a headless CMS for the people that is not fully related to or is not familiar with the concept. A CMS, a content management system, is a platform or an application that you can use to create content and manage it for your application. Probably you have heard about WordPress, which is a CMS that is used in, I don't know, the 80% of the sites that are living nowadays in the web. The concept of headless CMS comes from separating the presentation layer, which would be the head in this case, from the backend of the application, so you can generate the content, not forcing the developers to use a particular technology, a particular framework, a particular approach for the front end of the application. This brings several benefits, let's say, like, for instance, being able to use the programming language that you want, using the frameworks that you want, the deployment, strategy that you want, but also that you can generate or create the content once and use it in different channels, to use it, for instance, in mobile applications, in, I don't know, smart devices like Alexa from Amazon, for instance. So I think that that's possible because you are separating the backend where you generate the content from the presentation layer of that content. I mean, you create the entities, you create the components, you organize the content as you want, and you are not forced to do that in a certain way, depending on the presentation that you want to use. In the case of Storyblok itself, it's a headless CMS that it has, I would say, two main features or two things that are the most powerful feature of the product. One is that the content is organized in a componentized way, let's say. So you can create components with components inside of them, following probably the approach of the atomic design. In this case, that you can have components with components inside of it, etc. And that let you organize the content that you are creating in a certain way that you can use in your applications after that. And probably the main feature of Storyblok is the visual editor that allows you to have a real-time preview of how the content is going to look like in case that you create a web application or a website.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I know you talked about Wordlet or WordPress a little bit. If we could compare Storyblok to say like a Sanity.io product, where Sanity's kind of like you have your own hosted version of that admin interface. Storyblok is actually hosting that side of it for you in their studio, right?
Yes.
Kind of
Yes.
in
I
the
mean,
base.
Storyblok has an application that you create and manage your content, but it is, I mean, the database, let's say, is managed and stored by Storyblok, and you can connect to it using the APIs that Storyblok offers. Like we have a REST API that you can use, or a GraphQL API in case that you want to use GraphQL.
That was going to be my next question.
If it supports GraphQL.
Well, if how you get that data back. So you said that it's not specific to any framework. So you could use it in React, you could use it in Svelte or Vue or any of the other frameworks out there. So I was wondering how you get that data back. So you have the option of doing GraphQL or REST.
Exactly. I mean, there's an API that you can call, you can consume the content from there. We also have some SDKs for many technologies, I would say, to make the work easier in case that you're, for instance, if you go to storyblok.com/technologies, or you click on technologies there, but we have like different guides or like technology hubs where you can find tutorials, you can find blog posts, you can find code samples, projects, etc., that you can use, and SDKs that you can use for different frameworks. We have for Next.js, Nuxt.js, Angular, Gatsby, Svelte, ASP.NET, in case that you are from the same background that I come from and you want to use it for your ASP.NET core applications. But in case that you don't want to use that, or probably, I don't know, you're using a technology that we don't have an SDK for, you can connect as any other software as a service API, let's say.
Cool. Yeah, that helps. I know like Sanity has their, I'm going to mess up the name. They have their Grok language. So is it transportable something? I can never remember. Anyways, they store theirs a lot differently. What? Sorry, what was that?
No, the language, the query language that they have.
Yeah, I was trying to remember like when you put things in like a block like this, the actual block of content is stored differently in their database where it represents like this is a bold type of piece of content and things like that. Is that somewhat how it's stored in Storyblok, or is it just raw data that goes in there? You kind of talked about those components. Can we break that down a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So if you go, well, for instance, you are now in the application itself, let's say, where you can create spaces. We link spaces to project. Like if you are working on a project, you will have a space to manage all the content for that project. You can create a new one, or you can create, for instance, in this case, a demo. I would recommend you to play with the demo, because it will show if you click there. No, because I mean, this is, I won't spoil. We probably will talk about this later, but we are working on a version 2 of the project, and we will have the possibility to name the demo space. But the thing is that I wanted to point the demo application because you can see the visual editor, which is, I think, the main part of Storyblok application, and the place where the content creators and content editor will spend the most of their time. And what you have there are components. I mean, the way of organizing the content in Storyblok is the reason of the name. We have stories, which are, I don't know, pages, let's say, like a blog post type story, home page type story, not necessarily linked to a visual representation, but that's probably the easiest way to relate the concept.
Sure.
And then you have blocks that are components of those stories, Storyblok, and you can have blogs with blogs inside of them, and etc. And that's the way that you can use to organize the content that you create and you generate. If you see this demo application, for instance, there's a page with different, in the structure, you have different blocks, and you can put other blocks inside of it, or I don't know, create different types of blocks. I mean, this is a demo space, but you can create the type of blocks that you want, the type of stories that you want. And the cool part is that the URL that you are seeing there is a demo application that Storyblok created to display for this demo space. But
Cool.
the thing is that the cool part is that you will link Storyblok application to your application. So you will put there, I don't know, localhost 3000 if you're using a local I don't know, application using React, for instance, or you can point to an staging environment or testing environment or development environment, and you can see the content that you are creating in Storyblok and how it will look like when you deploy it to production in your real application, let's say.
Cool.
So since you do the atomic design methodology, are these components able to be reused easier? Is that kind of the idea behind it from the beginning, as you create these components and then you can reuse them throughout the site?
Yes, that's the idea. We can go there to another part and show you how you can create components that you can
like that.
reuse and nest them in other components. But yes, I mean that's the idea, and the main idea, to reuse these components that you are creating and not having to redo everything for each page that you are
And
creating.
it makes it more consistent. I like that a lot.
Exactly. So, for instance, if you go there, the cool part also of the visual editor is that if you click, for instance, in any button or any paragraph there, you will get the information in the right-hand side, and you can edit that, and you can see like live the content being changed. Like if you click there and you change that text, for instance, you will see that in the visual editor that it's changed, and you are seeing how it will look like without having to save or publishing anything. And that's probably the cool part. I mean, you as a content editor or content creator, you don't have to affect the deployed version of your application to create content and see how it will look like. And you don't have to, let's say, bother the developers to do a release to see, okay, I'm creating a blog post, let's say. I need to deploy it to testing to see how it looks. And if it's okay, we can deploy that to production. That can be everything done from the inside of Storyblok application. I mean, you have the save button where you can create a draft version of your story and the content that you created. And now that you have the draft version, if it's okay, or I don't know, you can create a workflow, for instance, of approval, that you have different persons that can approve that draft that you created, and etc. You click the button publish, that calls a webhook that is configured in your, let's say, content delivery or content integration service. You execute the build, and there you go. You have the blog post live in your site without having to touch anything from the development side, let's say.
That's really cool.
That is really powerful that you could like save it as a draft and then allow other teams to see it and then use a webhook. And if I understand correctly, the webhook could even go to like a testing deployment instead of the main build, and then you could push it if changes needed to be made from there. So I really like that flow.
Exactly. And not only that, if you click on the button that is at the left, exactly that one, you create there, and Storyblok generates a URL that you can share with other teams or other members of the team, and you can see how the page will look like without having to publish, without having to do any kind of deploy.
I like that a lot.
What you have to consider is to save, because you have to generate the draft version, which will be consumed from the API. But if you see how the API is delivering the content that is created, is using JSON, nested objects inside JSON, depending on the components that you use, depending on the blocks that you used. And well, probably the idea is to make the work easier for the developers, but also for the content editor or the content creator to have the chance to see how the content would look like, right? I mean, if you put the form only mode like you were doing, you probably that's the default view that you will have in other CMSs or headless CMSs. Like you fill the different fields, and well, you save, and then you have a new
Yeah.
story, you have a new page, etc. But having the possibility to visually see how it will look like when you deploy it, I don't know. I think that it's added value that is cool
How do
for
you
content creators.
How do you think that JSON object is for the developers? So with Sanity, if you move around a block, it can mess the JSON object up. And so the content on the page could not render correctly because something got moved by the person that you hand it off to. So how does this like structure the content to make sure that it's rendered correctly on the front end side?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there a way to preview the JSON in here?
Yes, if you go to the arrow that is at the right of publish, you have there draft JSON and publish JSON. We have version 1 and version 2 are different parts of seeing the same content, how it's organized. But you have the possibility to see the draft version of the content that you created and the production or published version of that JSON.
I'll go install my plugin again.
I was
one-
going to say you need to get a plugin for JSON.
Yeah.
I know. I had
Complicated.
to take it off because
I don't
of
remember
some
what it's
issues.
called.
I'll add that extension while we're chatting some more. So it seems like it's very similar to a lot of the headless CMSs, but the nice part is that visual aspect. Is there a way to have your own styling placed into that visual preview so you're almost seeing what will come out on your website?
Yes. So what you use in the visual editor is like what you are editing is this JSON object that is delivered to your application. The style that you use depends on you. I mean, if you want to use Tailwind CSS to define the styles of your application, you define that in your application, and then you consume the JSON and display that depending on what you coded.
So I think you'll see whatever you code up after. If you pulled that into your code base and you styled it, that would look like whatever you coded.
Exactly.
I was just wondering, can you impact the visual preview at all? Excuse me.
Yes.
will.
I mean, so what you are seeing now is a testing application that is living that Storyblok created.
Mhm.
What you will see is your application. I mean, you will see there your application. So for instance, if you want to customize each block like at the detail level, you can do that depending on how you define your components. For instance, if you selected a call to action, if you go to the right hand side, you will see that there's a tab there that says styles. And those are predefined styles that the creator of the demo space, in this case, Storyblok team, define that, okay, I will give the content creator the possibility of justifying the text, or of changing the padding, of changing the width, and etc. But those are details that are being returning in the JSON object that your application is consuming. So what you have to do is in the front end of your application, you will grab those details and you will say, okay, the content editor said that he wanted the background in black in this component. So I'm grabbing that property from the JSON object, and I'm setting that as a background color of my block, for instance.
So they can set the styles in like the GUI part, but you would have to grab it in the JSON. What if you wanted to style it yourself in the code? Would that push up to the preview version? I think that's
yes,
what I was asking.
Yes, it will. I mean, this customization, this styling is because
use those styles.
You don't have to use. I mean, the team that created this demo space wanted to do this in this way.
Yeah.
You can set like say, okay, all the blocks are going to follow this pattern and this style, and that's something that you can change, and it's okay. I mean, that depends on you and what you need, and probably the flexibility that you want to offer to the content editors.
Okay.
Awesome.
In fact, sorry, if you go to the previous screen, if you go to the left-hand side menu, you will see that there's one that says components. So there you have the possibility to create and edit the components that you want to use in your stories. You have two columns there. One says content type and the other one says nestable. The content types are the stories or the structure of the stories, and nestable are the components that you are going to use inside your stories and that can be table. I don't know what's the word, but you got the idea.
Sure. Yeah.
So there you can configure, for instance, if you go to the page or the feature, you say, okay, this component will have these fields, we have these properties, we'll have these tabs with these details that can be used or that can be defined by the user. And depending on that, you will consume those fields and those properties in your application.
Cool. Yeah, that's really great. So if we're to compare this to like, and I'm just throwing out popular ones to see what catches, like Dado CMS, I just lost the Contentful is probably the biggest one. Would you say there's anything lacking at this point since it's such a new or newer product, like from like user roles or workflow or anything like that, or it's pretty much ready for prime time?
I think it is ready. I mean, I would have to probably. That's a good question. I would have to think about that probably.
Sure. I
When we call
don't
the
mean to put you
events.
on the spot.
No. But it's a good question. I think that I mean, nowadays there are like big projects using Storyblok, big organizations and companies using Storyblok. So it's a product kind of new, let's say, but I think it's ready. I would have to evaluate like all the features from other headless CMSs and compare that to Storyblok to say, hey, probably Storyblok is missing this or that. But
Sure.
I think that it's a matter of the user experience of the person that is using Storyblok, or of the I don't know, the needs that you have in your project. Well, I mean, when you are evaluating different alternatives, you have a lot of things to put on the table. The pricing, the different tiers that you have,
Yep.
the bandwidth that is allowed for your projects, the space if you want to upload static assets that you want to use in your projects, and etc. So those are things that you will probably evaluate, right?
Yep,
How does it
absolutely.
manage those user roles? How many people get access to edit and things like that?
Cool. So depending on the plan that you are using of Storyblok, you can define different user roles, and you can I don't know, group the users in these roles that you are creating, and you can say, okay, for instance, well, one thing that I forgot to mention or to show is that the content in Storyblok is organized in a hierarchical way. I mean, you can create folders and put the stories inside those folders, and then create folders inside of them, and etc. And then you can set like access levels depending on the folders. Like I don't know, for instance, you can say, Brittany, I want you, if you log in and you use the application, I want you to access to this folder, and this folder, but not to this one. And depending on those roles, you can handle the security there. You can set the workflows and say, okay, this person is allowed to publish stories to production. This person is only allowed to create new stories and save the draft version. And I mean, you have the possibility of creating these
Seems
user
like that's
roles.
really well laid out and thought out to a very fine
Yes,
level.
and you can also I mean, well, there are a lot of features, but one of them is creating multi-languages sites or localized sites, and you can say, okay, this user can translate this content. This user is not allowed to translate this. Yeah, I mean, when you want to customize, you can go very deep, let's say.
Awesome.
Yeah, I know in the advanced plan, $12 a month, there's unlimited roles and custom roles, so it becomes pretty powerful pretty quickly for
And
not a ton of money.
that's what I was gonna say. That's really inexpensive compared to
Yeah.
some of the ones out there.
Yeah, I know
Yeah,
it's up to 60 users at that point too, which is
Yeah,
it's a
that
decent
is
sized company at that point. So,
pretty awesome.
yeah.
and what is cool is that I think that from the first plan, let's say, you have unlimited space to upload your static assets. If you want to use video, images, PDF files in your application, you
Oh,
can upload them to Storyblok CDN with unlimited space. You have unlimited components that you can create, unlimited stories. There's no limit there, no matter the plan that you are using of the product. So
is there any
that's very
integration
cool.
with like Cloudinary or other media libraries?
Yes, we have an integration that you can use in case that you want to use Cloudinary to manage
Awesome.
your data or your image and video instead of using Storyblok CDN. We have also an image service that you can use to edit or to, I don't know, make changes to the images that you are saving in Storyblok CDN to consume them in a different way, just sending some parameters on the URL like Cloudinary does too.
Yeah.
Um, but yes, I mean, we have an integration. You have the possibility of using other applications that are created to expand the behavior of your space, let's say.
You talked a minute about Storyblok CD in there. Can you describe, or is there a link I could go to look at kind of what the CDN looks like for Storyblok?
Yes, I think there was a link. I don't remember it exactly, but
Okay.
yeah.
I'll search for
Um,
it.
no, that's okay. I mean, we have the CDN. If you search for CDN in Storyblok main page, you will see it because um,
While you're
give
looking
me
for that
one
too, I
second.
had one thing. I do a little bit of e-commerce work, so I saw that you say the new era of e-commerce CMS on the site. So what makes that specific to e-commerce? What's the special thing for e-commerce that you provide?
We have some integrations with BigCommerce, with Shopify that you can use in your space. There are a couple of cool tutorials that you can see and videos on how to link your headless CMS space with an e-commerce platform. And
Yep.
we are working on more integrations with other e-commerce platform providers that, I mean, I don't know. I really like the Jamstack and I enjoy working with it. So I think it's very, very cool. I mean, creating a platform without having to worry about reinventing the wheel to create an e-commerce platform or to handle the content that you want to use in your websites. So
Yeah,
I don't
I'm
know. It's
very
pretty cool.
interested in these things that are bringing it back together. We've talked about this a few times where the Jamstack is great because it offers you the best in class for these things that you can get whichever you want, but more like it's getting harder to bring it together to where you have one place you can go and edit your content. So
Yeah.
I applaud that you guys are using those integrations to kind of bring it to one place.
Yes, I can share with you probably later a link with we have some guides and tutorial, but there is a video of previous talk that we presented in other events where we show how to use, for instance, Shopify or BigCommerce with Storyblok, and you can handle the products that you create in the e-commerce platform from the inside of Storyblok and create,
Oh,
I don't
that's
know, a
awesome.
carousel to display the products or create a product details page or something like that.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I found the little CDN, and so there's a whole article that talks about kind of the China and the Great Firewall that they have to deal with, and
Yes.
so it looks like you guys are backed by AWS, and kind of using CloudFront for the CDN side of things. So I'll throw a link
Yes.
in there because I know we're getting tight on time, but I think overall this looks like an amazing product, and I would have to agree. Like I don't see why you couldn't use this for production. The more I dig in, it looks
Yeah.
fantastic. So it's very cool to check that out. Quick pivot here, but I think it's time to do our perfect picks if you guys are ready.
We're ready.
I am.
Okay, I think you're up first.
Cool. So yeah, I wanted to pick this course. Let's say just JavaScript. I read that a couple of weeks ago, probably, and I think it's super cool because it's a brief tutorial, a brief course. Let's say, I mean, it's a reading course, not video, but it made me think probably the fundamentals of JavaScript from a different point of view or a different approach, and that was super interesting. So I really recommend that. Probably it's more focused on people that is taking the first steps into the development world, but it was very interesting and entertainment.
I did the newsletter one when they were still in beta, and it was sent like as a weekly newsletter. I thought it was pretty interesting too.
Yes, yes, it is. Well, I was, I mean, I was receiving
And those
the
Maggie
newsletter at
Appleton
that time
graphics.
too.
They're so
I was
good.
gonna say, aren't you gonna shout out Maggie?
Yes, always shout out Maggie. I mean, she does beautiful work.
If you don't subscribe to her newsletter, you should,
You
because
should.
like unpacking how her mind works is incredible. So that's who does the illustrations, folks. If you
Yeah.
missed that
Yeah,
part, cool.
and they are cool. I mean, you can read it and understand that, but having the graphics there, it's super helpful. So uh, yeah, I mean, I really recommend that. Is brief. I think that they are going to expand the course, adding some more material in the future. But right now there are like 10 lessons
Mhm.
that you can read. I don't know, on a weekend if you don't have many plans.
Sure.
There you go.
Yeah, and so it's by Dan. I'm gonna screw up his name.
Abramoff.
Abramov. Is that right?
Abramov.
Okay.
Yeah.
I always mess names up, as you guys already know, but Dan is a member of the React team and co-author of Redux, as it says on their page here, and create React app. So between Dan and
Yeah.
Maggie, I think you're pretty well set on this stuff to check out. Your
Exactly.
second pick.
Yeah, I'm not using them right now, but I purchased these headphones, and it was really a surprise. I mean, I purchased them because they were with an offer here in Argentina, but also because I had several friends that recommended me them. They have noise canceling. They have an ambient mode that you can like hear the ambient where you are. For instance, yesterday I spent the whole afternoon riding my bike, and like with the ambient mode you can, I don't know, listen to the cars that are going to pass you or
Yeah.
the people that is walking around the street, so you don't I don't know, you don't hit the people with the bike. But besides that, the quality of the sound is super cool. It has some cool gestures that you can use to, I don't know, increase the volume or change the song that you are listening to. If you are with noise canceling mode, you can place your hand on the headphone, and it's like automatically it turns off the noise canceling. So if a person is talking to you and you don't hear
Oh,
what
wow.
the person is saying, you put the hand, and there you can listen anything. And well,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm listening to music the whole day, so
Yeah.
this was like a cool
Actually,
purchase.
I think I had the version right before these, or maybe it was these, and they were absolutely incredible. I have a really, really hard time. I overheat all the time, so having over the years, it didn't work out. So I ended up sending them back. But the audio quality on these were just phenomenal.
Yes, they are. They
Your third pick, which it might be my favorite pick ever, just because of my love for Andy and Parks and Rec. Sorry, go ahead.
Probably related, but yeah, I'm a big Parks and Recreation fan. I watched the whole TV show, and I discovered that last week they released the official album of Mouse Rat, the band that Andy, the character that was played by Chris Pratt in the TV show. He had a rock band, and they released an album that is with very good quality. I mean, I think that the band joined in a studio, and they recorded the songs, because it's not like it's recorded from the TV show. It has a real good sound. and you can go to the different music platforms to listen to the complete album. But if not, you can go to the page and you have merchandising that you can purchase.
And it appears if you miss Little Sebastian like I do, you can get a T-shirt to
Exactly.
represent the 5,000 candles in the wind.
or the cassette, for instance.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's super cool.
That's great. I love it.
Well, that was something that I used to test my headphones.
Brittany, you are up next with your first pick.
All right. Yeah. So I was looking for intros to Storyblok, and I saw Scott try Storyblok, and I always loved Scott Talinsky. I subscribed to Level Up Tutorials. So it was just a little brief intro of him trying Storyblok, like seeing what it was like. I think it was in last year. So it's a little old now, but still relevant. So check that out.
You guys will have to get Scott
Super
to do
cool.
like V2 update.
Yeah, we have to contact him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your second pick
And my
might
second
autoplay.
I have oh no, the autoplay on everything is just why. But I've picked Ted Lasso before, but season 2 is out now, and still it is just one of the best shows ever. I cannot end an episode without just a gigantic smile on my face.
Yeah.
It goes to the credits, and I'm like sitting there, I'm like, why am I still smiling?
Yeah, if you don't believe us because you like are in episode 1 or 2, keep going because
I mean, it's just
it'll shock you.
heartwarming. Like, and in this day and age, like anything heartwarming that makes you smile, like is just enlightening.
Yeah, that's I mean that's true. And I don't know, it's fun because well, here in South America we are almost all the people is a big fan of soccer or football, depending on how you call it. But I mean, a friend of mine recommended me the show, and he doesn't like football. He said like, no, watch the show because it's great besides the main topic, let's say. And he was right. I mean, I'm really enjoying the TV show.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more. My pick for the day, I only have one. I usually try to do a tech one and something fun, and I just have a fun one. We went to Respect in the actual theater. Get to go to the theater again, which is amazing. And it's all about Aretha Franklin's career and her childhood and growing up. And it was a tough story to watch, definitely, but also amazing. She was an amazing person. So if you have any interest in kind of that history, go check it out. It was really cool.
Absolutely.
Nice. Super cool.
Fernando, I think that wraps us up for this pod, but I have a feeling we're probably going to have to chat again once version 2 is released in full out of beta, because the things that I'm seeing in the beta are pretty incredible.
Yeah, I'm like, it doesn't even look like a beta product.
Yeah, yeah, but we can surely talk about the V2 when it's released to the public. And thank you for the invitation and the possibility of talking here. I really enjoyed it, and yeah, I mean it was great. So repeating this will be super cool.
Well, we
Awesome.
enjoyed having you. Thank you for coming.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks so
you.
much.
Thank you very much.
Have a great one.
Right. Later.
Bye bye.